Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live.
Hi, guys. Happy
Hello.
Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Looks like we made it after all this time. It's been so long. But welcome to Thursday Night Live. We're going to be doing the thing again this week with special guests Jim and Bev Beverly McChesney. I will word correctly in a minute. Excuse me. English has been difficult for the last 36 hours. So
I understand.
But things should be getting back onto a normal trek. Going into announcements, what do we have for announcements?
So really the last thing that we have for this month is Tarot Night Live next week. We might have a special guest for our Tarot Night Live. That one's still up in the air, but y'all will know as soon as we for sure know. We're trying to keep it on the download just because it's a fun little thing we're trying to do this month. It's guest month. So next week, we also have Spotlight. Tyree and I will be on reading cards. Then Wednesday night, the girls should be on reading cards. And then Thursday night, we'll be on reading cards. But that finishes out August. So
We do have some fun things coming up in September. And there is a special event we're going to get to here in a little bit that the McChesneys are doing that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But thank you guys. Just as a side, thank you guys for all your support. Sorry I was so secretive about it, but honestly, I'm not the kind of person that likes to put my personal business out on social media. But I figured since I was kind of MIA for a lot of things and slowing down in a lot of other ways, that I should probably be honest about what was going on. Thank you for the thoughts, prayers, the light, the love, the everything that you guys have given. And for those that did not know, Mom passed away. So dealing with that one. But it's going to be okay, and so is she, and so am I. So
she's out of pain.
Do what, sir?
I said she's out of pain.
Yes, sir. Yes, she is. Cancer is a hell of a thing, and she died of cancer of her cancer. So literally so cancerous that her blood became toxified. So I'm glad that it's over, as bad as that is to say. But to get out of the somberness and into some fun, we're going to continue the format that we've been doing, like with Forsyths and with Misty and with the girls. We're going to continue that format. So for those that didn't know, and you guys have heard us talk a lot about Miss Bev and Mr. Jim, these are the McChesneys. They're a big part of our support group. They've always been in our corner. Bev's actually, yeah, both of them actually are part of the reason why Spirit Mechanics actually wound up getting started, whether they realize that or not, because we were in their way. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but they're very special people to us, and we want you guys to get to know them the way that we know them. So we'll ask a question, and then they'll ask a question after, the same way as we always did. But starting things off, so going with what I was just talking about, we were talking just a second about us being in your all's way. It was at the Mystical Fair back when Patty still owned it, and it was at Porter Place. And a friend of mine and team member Davis and I started frequenting the event, and would always wind up congregating and hanging out in your all's booth, Om Sweet Om, and doing demos and talking to people about stones and different things like that, and wound up being underfoot. What started Om Sweet Om? What was the driving force behind that one?
I lost my job, and Beverly was in the process of losing her job. And we had bought a stock of a lady that was decided she was going to go out of business. So we needed something to do to make a living. And it was amazing how it turned out. We were always blessed that way, for sure. We were both scared to death because, no income except for what we sold and what we did. So anyway, that's how it got started.
Yeah,
I'm go ahead.
We'd had long time good incomes and had started the Home Sweet Home kind of as something to do when we got around to retirement, not knowing that, wow, we better get busy. So got started.
It turned out to be one of the most rewarding and fun things of my life. Just getting to meet people like you guys, and expanding our consciousness in our minds and all the above. So it was a wonderful experience.
For those that don't know, Home Sweet Home was a business that they had that sold metaphysical supplies, stones,
Shiny things.
Rings and necklaces and bracelets and all kinds of cool stuff. Actually, a lot of the work stones that we've got actually came from Jim and Bev. So the stuff that you see in our stone grids at events and things like that, some of those actually came from them. So it was actually a really, really awesome. It was really awesome. It was one of those kinds of weird spaces because they had a huge setup, at least in comparison. They had a big middle space in the middle of the building. And we would always gravitate there, even though there was a bunch of other vendors and readers and stuff to do. We'd always hang out there. It was one of the few places that felt like it was safe to actually be the weird kind of people we were. So, because, as you guys found out from Misty Connor and that episode, we work in the light, but we are not light workers. So being able to be free enough for us to express ourselves and help people in the way that we do was an amazing thing. And a lot of us had been really kind of chastised and even to the point of abuse by the community there for the longest time. And Bev and Jim stuck it out with us, kept pushing us. And, finally it was, get the fuck out of our space. You're blocking traffic. So
We knew quality when we saw it, though.
And that's awesome of you guys. It is. For those just popping on, we're on with Jim and Bev McChesney. We're hanging out with them tonight. It's your all's turn. Y'all have a question for us?
Oh, wow. Do you have any questions? We didn't know we were going to be asking questions. So this could be interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
we're kind of doing that on purpose.
We got this Echo thing.
Oh,
Good old Amazon, right? And it features pictures from our past. And the other day, the picture of you learning how to ghost hunt with your hands and the golden light surrounding popped up, which is really, really neat. So maybe it's a prelude to what we're doing tonight.
We knew Steve had abilities, but we didn't know how much until this picture popped up. And if you haven't seen it, you can message me and I'll see if I can find it, if it's okay with him, or maybe he needs to show it. But
either way.
Yeah, Steve's picture and Steve opened my eyes up to possibility. And I've had a lot of fun watching you grow and thrive and learn and be, because I'm old, I get to watch those things. But I guess my question would be, at what point did you, Steve, realize that you were not the norm? Now, other than, age 14 when we all figure that out, but
Right. When at least the earliest I can remember, and everybody's heard the story, but the earliest I can remember, I saw everything like a kid's finger painting. Light sources, some movement, but most of it was just blobs of color. Born blind and then had the lenses removed, so my eyes couldn't process light correctly or take it in correctly. And because of that, I couldn't see still. And everything was blobs and blurs and different things like that, except for certain things. Certain people, certain things, certain types of light, certain objects were crystal clear. And I was like, well, apparently this is the way the world is, because I was never corrected. And there was a couple of times of, what's going on with that, with that over there. I think one of the times was we were out in the woods. My grandparents would always take me out into the woods, even before I could properly see, and introduce me to nature. And I'd point over at a tree. What's with that tree? Well, that tree was struck with lightning. Oh, so is that the reason why it looks jagged? It looks hurt, I think is what I actually said. The tree looks hurt. I was 4 or 5 at that point. That tree looks hurt. What's going on with that tree? Well, it was struck by lightning. And then the realization of Merle, Papa, how did you see that? And I'm going, can't you see that? And they apparently had both looked at each other and were like, what's going on? Because, I'm having to be led around by the hand. I had Coke bottles that were, as it gets hung in my beard, Coke bottles that were thicker than this, and still couldn't see where I was going. But I knew that tree was quote unquote hurt. And at that point, I started to pay attention to things. I'm like, oh, so that isn't normal. I'm not supposed to be able to see these things. And it progressed into being able to see entities. I've told the story about the one that had plagued me and Mom for the longest time. And then there was one that would always come out of the closet at the grandparents' house when I was younger, and would stand over Papa while he was sleeping. And I woke up to him gasping and coughing one night with this woman standing over top of him and pushing into his chest.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
And when she saw me, I couldn't move. And she just slowly got up and walked back into the closet and shut the door behind her. And he started coughing and had to get up. So it woke him up out of a sound sleep. He was going into signs of severe sleep apnea. But it was this thing pressing in on his chest. So it's been kind of a lifelong thing. I just don't know how to truly explain when and where it made the difference to me, because to me it's always been normal. So I guess it comes into that whole normal is relative thing.
It's all perspective, different
Yeah,
perspectives.
Sure.
Well,
Right.
you wonder if the thing you saw was helping or hurting, waking him up or hurting him.
It's hard to say. The way that it felt, it wasn't great. But then again, I was a kid. So being able to really differentiate between what is fear and what is a problem is kind of difficult at that age. But yeah, from what I could tell, it wasn't a great situation. He started sleeping with the door closed, and he never had that problem again. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
y'all,
Y'all, talk to us.
yeah, one of y'all say something.
All right, I have a question.
Okay.
The Catholic Church has made a lot of changes this year, and I'm curious to hear y'all's opinion on them.
Well, I don't know that I know what they are. I've not paid any attention to the Catholic Church or its changes. So I guess, do you know anything?
No, I
on
sure
it?
don't.
That's the subject I just haven't followed, I guess.
What kind of changes?
Steve, do you want to discuss the changes?
She's throwing me under the bus.
There you go.
What
Tell us,
do you like talking about?
what are the changes?
Here,
So-
Steve, catch.
Yeah,
Right.
pass.
Hot potato, motherfucker. And by the way, it's an all ages, or not all ages. It's an 18+ show. So if you want to say things, you can say things. But essentially, and it is a public document. You can actually look this up. But the church has changed its parameters on exorcism to the point where they literally said that they would not be approaching exorcisms in the same way, or even releasing priests to do so, unless there were extreme measures that were actually taken, or extreme circumstances that were proven. Even with the extent of the psyche vows and physicals and different things that they already had in place, now they are scrutinizing people's their standing in their community. So if someone has something bad to say about you, you automatically are no longer a candidate. If you haven't been the utmost in your church, you are not fulfilling your due diligence to God, and therefore you are no longer a candidate.
I think that pretty much summarizes most of it.
I mean, there was a lot more that went into it, but that's the long and short. Is you had to be a good little Christian, or the church was no longer going to help you at all.
Well, I'm not so sure that the church did a whole lot anyway, as far as exorcism. I'm not sure that all the ritual and this is and that ones did. I think it is more psychological than physical. I think there are physical exorcisms and people who manipulate the energy and change it and do this and that. But that to me was always more suggestive and dramatic and psychological instead of actually physically doing something. But I never thought a lot about it. So
Now, you guys, Steve in particular, has had some experience with that type of thing. Not an exorcism maybe per se, but finding quote evil,
pulling those little things off.
pulling that stuff off. So maybe we need to get a little talk from Stevie here and see what he's got to say about all that.
It's yeah. With the training that I went through, with the training that I went through and the things that I've seen, I'm only 40. Yeah, shocker for some people in the audience. Yeah, I'm only 40, but I've been doing what I do openly for almost 30 years. So the majority of my life, and I've seen the worst of people come out without demons and without, some kind of entity basically behind the wheel, so to speak. But I've watched good people, God-fearing Christians, ritual practicing pagans, Wiccans that, commune with the elements. I've watched literally anybody and everybody get affected by what is usually denied. And this has been the biggest thing. It's one of the biggest things that my teacher taught me and that I teach my students, and that is just because you have a particular faith base with a particular version of God, with a particular language, it doesn't mean that the entity you are dealing with fucking understands any of that or cares about any of that. So saying that you have one true way to do an exorcism, even to the point of essentially copywriting the word and holding it behind a gate, is ridiculous. But that's my standing.
Well, when you work physically in the energy, in the auric field, on the person. I think ritual exorcism is ritual. They don't put their hands in there and pull it out. They don't do like I've done before and pull black ooze out of somebody's heart. They just talk about it.
True. Do it yourself. I'm going to scream at you until it works.
Yeah.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Now, I think when people intend that water is going to be holy and burn someone, that intent can make that water do that. I think all the psychological pieces of it can manifest the actions of it. But I don't think what the church does is what people like Steve and others do. They get in there and pull the physical thing out, if there is a physical thing.
I agree. And there's a difference. I have sat in on actual Catholic exorcisms, like actual exorcisms, not, I've got a boogity boo in my closet, come and throw holy water at it. Now, I have actually sat in on those. And I've watched the human body do things that it should not be able to do. I have watched a demon crawl out of somebody, actively crawl out of somebody. So I do know the power of faith itself. And I can always tell a true quote unquote exorcist from somebody that actually does the work. And someone who actually does the work, you can fucking tell. I know 2 Catholic priests out of my entire, training as an alchemist and doing what I do. I know 2 Catholic priests that are actual exorcists, and neither one of them are ordained by the Vatican. Neither one of them have gone through Vatican training, but the Vatican has actually commissioned them to do the work.
Because they're successful.
Yep.
So are demons a imagination gone awry? Are demons actual demons?
Physical energy?
Or is it I'm sitting here in my house and I don't like you. I'm going to conjure a demon. I'm going to make a demon with my intent.
Or is a demon the ego?
All of the above. The classification of a demon is, to some, it's very black and white. If you're looking at theology, basically the study of religion, if you're looking at theology, it's pretty black and white what a demon is. Demon is evil, everything else good. But there is a gray area. And that's where you start to get classifications of demon, like incubi, succubi. You start to get the particular modes of control and influence. So, And sorry, have to do that because of what I'm about to say. Nobody repeat these names in their house, period. And it's okay because you're blocked. But giving actual names like Baal and Asmodeus and Andrix and, Belial, and, if you're doing that, then you're actually saying that this particular demon has this particular influence because they fall under the banner of that particular sin. So there's all these gray areas, but the best one that I've come across, and it kind of encompasses literally everything. And, I've given it a million times, so I'll do it real quick. But it's that whole thing of demons work on influence. They don't give a shit about you and what it is that you have and what it is that you do. They want you to make decisions. They want you to believe that the things they are telling you to do are your choice, because even demonics have to follow the one great law, which is free will. If they can make you believe that you're making the correct decision when you're doing really heinous things, then they get what it is that they want. A little bit more influence gives them a little bit more food, gives them a little bit more power, and they move on to the next one. So let's say there's a guy and he's outside of a casino and he goes in, he loses his shirt, right? He goes in, loses everything he's got, comes out onto the steps and cries out to anything that will listen and says, if somebody will just spot me $5, anybody that's listening, if you could give me $5, I could win it all back. Someone that nobody else can see or pays attention to walks out of the crowd, leans over, hands a $5 bill, says, go for it, buddy. Guy goes back in, plays a little bit, wins a lot more, winds up losing that. Pink slip to his car, deed to his house, and the literal shirt off his back, comes outside and goes, can anybody give me a 5 spot? I need to win it. I need to win it. I made a mistake. I know I can do it. Same person comes out, reaches out the $5 bill, and as he reaches for it, take it, snatches it back and says, I'll let you have this, but first you need to do something for me. That's how demonics actually work. They find a vice, an addiction, or a obsession, a really strong emotional trauma, and they push the finger into the wound and hyperactivate that part of the brain and give just enough of the reward to make you feel like you're doing something good when you're destroying your life.
So, how many demons are just manifests? How many? Because every word, every thought, every fear, every pain is a manifestation. It creates. So, I often wonder how many things are actually just manifestations of fear or anger and don't exist in everyone else's reality,
And
only in the reality of the manifester.
that's true. So there is not just theory anymore. It's actually been proven. Spirit Mechanics is one of the teams that's actually been doing a lot of research into that for the last 10 years that we've been together. But psychology will tell you that there are 2 things that you need to watch for, especially in a trauma response. The first one is transference. Transference is, I see my flaw in you, and because I can't deal with it within myself, I'm going to blame you. If you would just fix this thing that I'm being hypocritical about, we'd both be better off. That kind of thing. Then there's projection. This is your fault, openly. It's all externalized. Nothing is my problem. I feel this way because of the world. I feel this way because of you. Those particular kinds of trauma responses breed something that we've referred to as a thought form.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Thought forms are just that. They only affect the person due to, and this is where we were talking about ego and things, due to ego, either ego-driven things or fear-based things or stuff like that. But it only affects the person that creates it. That's why you find that only one person in a quote-unquote haunted house is actually being haunted. And everybody else is like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, thought forms are becoming more and more common because mental health awareness and actually going and seeing somebody talking to people being on medication, it's been so stigmatized that people don't anymore. And the problem with that is that you wind up with these kinds of situations more often because a lot of thought forms come from either extreme emotional traumas or PTSD or untreated psycho illness. So things like schizophrenia, lesser-based hallucination-based kinds of things, multiple personality disorders, DID, things like that. People mistake what it is that they're experiencing for a demonic possession or a haunting when it's literally their body responding to a hallucination. So it's kind of like walking sleep paralysis. Your sleep paralysis demon is there even when you're awake. And it's terrible. It's awful. It's not to say that, these people that are going through this aren't going through it because it's real to them.
Exactly.
But is it a demon per se? No. It's just a situation, unfortunately, of their own creation.
Yeah. I think, like you said, a lot of situations are because of somebody's, like just can't get it, just can't figure it out. So they project something. Waverly is a good example of that. Everybody knows about Waverly, but I think a lot of what people experience at Waverly are, one thing, you're scared to death. And so, you've heard all the stories and you expect to see strange things. In many cases you do. And of course, in many cases you don't. So.
Yeah, just the fear of the place.
Exactly.
You'll be interested, Steve, when I do my galleries, I have some Waverly nurses that now come with me. They got to know me over there and now they like the galleries, they come hang out.
I love that so much.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I do. I love that so much. Let's take a couple comments real quick and we'll get back into it.
So that's part of what's making me giggle is Tiff posted, I like my imaginary friends. They give me great ideas.
That's right, friends are good.
Over here trying not to just full laugh.
That's why I'm over here covering my face. Oh God.
Okay. It's
Allied said protection mechanisms. And yeah, definitely. Shay said, I tend to tell people they made their own quote monsters when they have manifested their emotions / intentions into a physical form.
Yep.
Tippy just had some big laughing smile faces.
So let's, are you taking questions?
From the
Yeah.
viewers. Yeah.
What about archangels? We've had a couple people that have encountered them, the opposite of negative.
Of demons.
And when you start talking to people, it's amazing how many people have had experiences that really shouldn't happen.
true. Archangels and angel kin, alike, they're the same as the quote unquote demonic. There are, again, you've got the theological understanding, demon bad, angel good. But then you have the gray area that we talked about earlier, where angels aren't exactly what people think. And a lot of times people don't really pay attention to who they're calling on. One of the biggest go-tos, and one of my biggest gripes, is everybody goes to Archangel Michael. Michael is the go-to. He's the one that comes and beats up the bad guy and saves the day. That's not what he does. That's not what he's the archangel of. That's not what he does. That's not his job. He is an aspect of justice, but when it comes to familial bonds and brotherly love, he's the archangel of families. You call him in to protect a space where your sisters and brothers are being harmed, not you. He's not a bodyguard. So he'll come down with the flaming sword and he'll stand there with it and wait for something to do while you get your ass kicked.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. If you remember, we had that one case in Ohio
Yeah.
that we all went together up there, and nobody bothered to tell me anything about the case. And it's like he shows up in the car, hands me a sword, and says, "Here, it's up to you, not me."
You do it.
You do.
Trial by error.
The one that you actually call on for those kinds of things, exorcisms, attachment removals, darker entities, is actually Raphael. Raphael is literally the patron archangel of exorcism. Like, it's actually in his title. He's also, of course, the archangel of healing, doctors, alchemists, and rebirth, regeneration, literally, and discernment. So proper judgment. So literally what people are mistaking for Michael is actually Raphael going, no, bro, it's cool. You can take credit, but I'm going to handle this. But that's the big thing that happens a lot of times is people hear on TV shows and read in books and all this other stuff, this folklorish kind of idea of what archangels actually are and what they do, and immediately go to what pop culture tells them that they should, instead of actually paying attention to who they're calling, which
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Which is kind of an issue in general, because when you don't know what you're calling, you wind up with the first thing we talked about.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a thing of archangels in and of themselves are an aspect of God. Here's a piece of me that you can understand. Here's a piece of me that you can feel. Here's a piece of me that your mind can comprehend and your body can accept enough to let me help you. And that's what an archangel actually is. Now, as far as angels, as far as guardian angels, things like that, those are people that have passed. Family members, ancestors, spirit guides. That's what spirit guides are as well. Half the time is past lineage, ancestry, grandma and grandpa, even your parents, sisters, brothers. It's people that are linked to you. It's why it gives that particular feeling of home, is because you are. But yeah, there's all those little gray areas, just like with demonics, with angelic presences as well. And it's a fascinating thing, because a million people have a million different understandings and definitions and stuff. And that's what tells me that none of us have really got it right yet. We've come close, at least as far as a base understanding, but none of us have actually gotten it right yet. because no one's able to agree on what all these entities actually do and where they come from and why they do what they do.
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm just
In-
speaking from personal experience and research.
Cue
So
Guns N' Roses.
In my experience, people are far better off to call on their own entities than to call names that they've been told they should call on. You know, we all have entities that are with us, whether they don't call themselves angels, but we call them angels. It's an easy name to recognize. But whether it's guardian, whether it's God, whether it's angel, whether it's some other entity that is involved in your well-being, people would be far better just to call on them. People would be far better just to talk to them. We've got these in all the readings and galleries. I always have angels who tell me, just tell them to talk to me. They have free will. I can't help them unless they ask. So people would be far better off if they just talk to the entities that are with them all the time. Now, I've had 2 situations where angels straightened my ass up. Let me just put it that
And
way.
let me say that's hard to do.
And so they are out there and they exist. And if you want, I'll give you an example that scared me to death. When I was maybe 20, 21, I was quite the party animal. I liked parties. And I lived way out in the country. It took about, 20, 30 minutes to get home. And one night I was coming home, maybe 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And I had been drinking a lot, probably been taking a little speed. Who knows what I might have been into. But I was on my way home and I started feeling nauseous. And I really should not have been in a car driving. Let me just lay that out there very clearly. I should not, I could barely function. And I started feeling nauseous. So I pulled over on the side of the road, this place that I knew was a good pull aside, and opened the car door just to get some air because I was feeling sick. And all of a sudden I went down on my knee, something pressed on the back of my head and put me down on the ground, on my knees. And it was holding my head down where I couldn't look up. But all around me, I could see this light that was so bright that I can't even describe what it looked like. But I could not turn my head and I could not look up. And it said, "We are tired. We are tired of protecting you. This is your warning. Stop. We are tired and you have a job." And then it went away and I was just fine. And I was no longer inebriated.
Wonder why.
Well, but that was my first encounter with an angel. And they were literally tired of protecting me. I was pushing the bounds. And they had a job for me. And so they finally got so sick of it, they just physically made me aware. So we have them. They're there. They're there for us. We just have to acknowledge them.
absolutely.
But that was my first one. And it was pretty powerful.
It sounds that way.
And the ground, this is something I forgot until just now. The ground was red hot around me
Sounds about right.
with energy. And it was like, if you could imagine, electricity on the ground.
It's pretty fun.
We're going to
This
sober
part
you
of
up right now.
By the way, I haven't told that story a lot, so now a lot more people know.
Well, thank you very much for sharing it.
Now they know I was a party beast
Well,
back in the day.
I mean, who else to let that cat out of the bag than with us? But yeah, it's us and a couple other people that we know and trust are doing some research into it currently. But it's an amazing thing. It seems as though things that are of more of a demonic nature have a heavier spiritual pressure. So you actually feel the palpable weight. It actually comes down on you like a weight on your shoulders and on your head, like you're being actively forced down by, excess gravity, almost like you're being pulled. And everything around you becomes blazing hot because of the friction with what are quote unquote angelics or more high vibrational beings. Your experience is more of the common, where you hear the active voice and everything is bright and everything is ethereal, but it's electrified. There's such an intense high vibration energy that it also causes friction, but it's more like static as opposed to friction heat. So it's kind of interesting hearing that story from you and getting that kind of information, because we've been trying to actually prove and disprove what things feel like so that we have an actual baseline. Because right now there's a couple of us mechanics that can walk into a space and go, this is exactly what's going on by the way that it feels. But that's just a couple of us. So we're working with multiple practitioners, multiple researchers, and we're trying to get a baseline of these symptoms equals this thing 100% of the time. So it's really, thank you for actually sharing that. That really helps.
That'd be a good study to interview people, put it out, see who's had experiences that can't, negative as well as positive, that can't be explained from our rational point of view. So that's not rational. Well, she just,
I mean, let's call it what it is. No,
yeah, it's very real though.
100%. Let's take a couple comments. We got any comments?
Yeah. And I think Tyree
yeah.
has a question too.
I do have a question, but it's going into what we're going to already discuss.
Okay.
Oh,
Next
fair
month.
Oh, okay.
So Tip said, or you shake apart at the molecular level.
True.
She also said, I've seen Bev on a mission. It's scary if you're on the wrong end.
She saw me mad one time.
I saw you both mad that night, and that scared the shit out of me. So,
Which night was the night that the guy wouldn't leave the event?
yeah, old Sauna Frank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that some people saw some sparks that they didn't know I had
That was a demon.
night. You saw my demon side.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a balance.
Oh,
is
you're
a
right.
balance.
It is a balance.
It is a balance. In addressing what you were saying about more people having experiences, I think that the universe is really amping up the energy. And so you're going to see more people experiencing the unusual in not necessarily positive or negative ways, just experiences. But then you're going to see the people who cannot stand in it showing they're crazy.
Going cuckoo.
You're going to see a lot more of that. And that came out in a gallery last weekend. They
Oh,
warned us
that's-
about that one.
That's wonderful, Bev. And
Yeah.
Off stream, need to tell you a couple things.
Okay. You can tell
So-
me all. So that, but that's come through a lot lately.
Oh, it certainly has. It
Yeah.
certainly has. We've I think we've hit that particular mark with what it is that we do too. That's what I was telling you is off stream. We'll have to give you a couple of for instances, but we've run into that a lot lately as well. People not being able to deal with life, and
You're going to see a lot more of it.
yeah,
There's going to be a lot more people who are living in their truth or being their authentic self. And then there's going to be a lot of people who just can't stand in it anymore. So I don't look forward to that, but it's coming.
yes, ma'am.
All aboard.
Yeah, get on the crazy train.
Any more comments?
More questions?
We got more questions.
Tiff said that depends on if Michael's met at Steve that day.
True.
And said, look up what they're actually supposed to look like versus the Renaissance style bullshit. Some of them are same as
Talking
white.
about, I missed something in that. What was she?
Talking about essentially
Yeah.
calling in archangels and thinking that they're supposed to look a certain way, and then if they
You mean-
actually show up, them not looking.
Do you want me
Like,
to tell
what
you
they're-
how the angels I've seen look?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure we do.
Most of them are about 9 feet tall, maybe. Most of them have on long black coats. Most of them are slim and
Look homeless.
look kind of homeless. In my experiences, I mean, I've seen them both ways, but the ones that tend to show themselves to us as human beings do not generally look like, well, just as an example, we all see them as these light beings, which we are light beings once we transition. We're energetic beings. But a lot of people think angels have wings. But in my experience, the one time I visited that other side, I was in the void, I was in the nothing, and it was the most perfect place. And I raised my arms up. And when I did, I was like a strobe light. And I thought, oh, that's why they think we have wings. It was the light strobing. So there's just one take. I don't know where I was going with that thought, but
That's
it was a good
story,
one.
though.
It was a good one, whatever it was. But that's, that's everybody thinks angels have wings. Angels have energy. They'll show themselves to us with wings if that's what we expect to see. They'll show, in my experience, when I talk to people who transition, they tend to show themselves to me in their favorite human form.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they passed away when they were 90, but they'll come and talk to me in their 27-year-old body, and they'll say to their wife, I'm in my 27-year-old body. I look so hot. In the readings. So the other angel I experienced looked like a homeless man. And when I could see them standing on the buildings in Lexington, watching the Watchers, there was a movie
City of
with
Angels.
City of Angels.
Yep.
That movie is more accurate than anyone realizes. When they were all standing on the buildings, that's accurate. I've seen them.
Yep.
So, welcome to my world.
Actually, I have a picture of that and shock you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
You got to make sure they get that right.
I'll send it to her.
Okay.
Okay. I had another experience with an angel that it's emotional for me to talk about now because it was so emotionally powerful when it occurred. And it hadn't been that many years ago. I was on Leestown Road where the Kroger is and all that.
Yeah.
And I was pulling out, going right. And there was a man standing on the median right there, on the other side of the median from me. And obviously, I'm assuming looking for money, a homeless person. And I thought that's a terrible place to be trying to get money because all these cars pulling in, nobody's going to stop and give him anything right there at the entrance because that turn-in is just super busy. And I turned out, and about just a tiny amount down the road, I was hit with this urge that I had to go back and give him money. Now, I'm always good about giving somebody $1 or $2 if I have it and it's handy. But this was, I have no choice. I have got to go give this man money. And so I turned around and I went back and I thought, I guess I can hand it to him really quick because there's always so many cars that are pulling in. And I turned in and he was there and I stopped. And I think I only had $2 cash. And he came over to me and I said, I'm sorry, this is all I have, but you're welcome to it. And he looked me directly in the eye and he said, do you know that God loves you? And it pierced my soul. And I said, yes, I know that. And he said, and I love you. And I said, and I love you. And I pulled away. And in my rear view, he was gone. He was no longer there. As soon as I looked up in the rear view, he was gone. He was probably about 6'8". He had on a long black coat. He had a long black beard. He had a long floppy hat and the most piercing blue eyes that looked into my actual heart and soul. And I knew beyond anything in this world that I was loved and protected and cared for. That was my second angel experience.
That was a good one.
It was powerful. It was powerful, and it's still powerful.
I love hearing that. I do.
Yeah.
It makes the preacher want to come out of me. It's literally, actually, that was literally one of my sermons. The things that are freely given, and love being one of those. And so it touches the deep down cockles of my heart. Because it just.
We shouldn't talk about your cockles on TV.
Hey, people know what they're tuning in for at this point.
If they've seen the show, they know what's coming.
Oh man!
But Mr. Tyree has a question,
And it all goes into next month. You've got the big event next month.
Full Moon Sisters Bazaar.
Thank you, because I totally went brain dead and could not think of the name of it.
September 28th and 29th in Bowling Green, Kentucky at the National Corvette Museum, which is just the coolest place ever. Let me just throw that out there.
Hey, I agree, actually.
So my question is what got you into doing the big events?
Boredom?
No.
No, we did the little shows. We did the little shows, the mystical fairs and things. And then, I made a very bad business decision with a partner and still did other shows and finally got past that. And then I found some really amazing partners who like to do fun things. And I don't know, it just seemed to be fun. Also, Steve Roden, who had the Inner Light Festival, we used to set up at his show. And he left his show to us in his will to take care of because he knew that we would honor it. And so it evolved. We do it because we're supposed to do it. The answer to that is we do it because we know we are supposed to. We know that it's our purpose to offer a safe environment for people to come and explore and experience and learn things and know that they're in a safe place doing it. That's what it's all about. Open a few minds and hearts, hopefully. It is not about the money. It is not about they own a bunch of shows. Who cares? It's about using what we've learned and finding the best venue we can find to share it.
Just like what you do, Steve, and you guys.
Yeah.
You've got a talent, and got to get the word out, right?
That's why you have it. I mean, we don't have these things for ourselves. We have these abilities or these practices or these things that we do not for ourselves. They're to share. So that's just one way we can share them. Plus, it's fun. Plus, I get bored if I don't have something to do.
I mean, same.
Yeah, same.
We are to be of service. That's what we're called to do.
Yep.
So, as we serve, we are served.
Yep, absolutely. It's just like when the homeless angel said that to me, something in his eyes connected with my eyes, and I knew we were one. And so all we're doing is just trying to reach the other ones. So
I tell this a lot while everybody's thinking about questions. I'm sure Ray's got one. But so be thinking about one if you didn't have one, Ray. But But you know, I tell that story a lot, so I'm not going to go over it, you know, in great detail. But it was the day that I actually wound up leaving the church. You know, events happened as they do, and I was sitting in the pew and listening to a friend of mine preach. His name is Mike Jarrell, and I was listening to him preach. And this is just after the Sunday school service where he was like, "Hey, Steve, you're an elder of your age group. Tell us why all of your age group is not here."
Oh, that's putting you on the spot.
And he smiled the entire time as I blasted that entire old man group. But you know, I'm sitting listening to his sermon after that, and it was on remaining humble. It was an interesting thing. This is part that I usually don't talk about. It was on remaining humble when you are blessed. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him, and all of a sudden everything just kind of fades out, and I'm still focused on him. Feel a hand on my shoulder. Go and prove I exist through action, not through words. You're not meant for a pew. Sure enough, let's go. And I haven't been back since. And to me, I've done more outreach as a minister doing this than I ever did when I was doing the associate pastor thing in the pulpit. So, you know, it just makes me, you know, it makes me smile hearing you guys talk about things the way that you do. It's just an amazing thing for me.
It's fact. Can we go back 1 second on something you said earlier? You were talking about learning how to read the room, how to go into a room and know.
Yeah.
My new practice is going into a room and making it how I desire it to be. Setting the room before I go in, which has been an interesting little thing.
It's a fun practice. Everything within your auric field is your space, is your reality, is your intention, and it will adjust accordingly. You know, people and entities still have their free will, but as far as the space itself and what can happen in it, that's a little different. So it's something that we refer to as flooding. And it's something that we actually teach in our metaphysics classes. But to use a Brian Gibson phrase, it's like taking your bra off after a hard day.
He wouldn't know about that. How does he know how wonderful it is to take your bra off at the end of a hard day, along with your high heels? Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. That's kind of the point of it, is instead of holding yourself at bay, you know, because there is a point in time where releasing your energy to a certain extent is actually toxic to you and other people. But allowing your intention to flow correctly allows your aura to expand correctly.
Exactly.
So it's literally like flooding a space with your energy, because you are. So when you actually project your energy into a room, into a home, because we've done that before, especially when there's certain types of entities we're having to deal with, even events, so whole venues, you can walk in and go, this is my home for right now. And immediately it becomes your territory. So you get to dictate the P's and Q's, you know, and it makes things a lot smoother. It really does.
And it can help some situations. Some situations it can maybe not help as much, depending on what's going on.
It's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes.
It's like being called on the carpet by your boss, and before you go in the room, you project that I'm a great employee. You love me. This is a good place before you go in the room. You know, just setting the energy just a little bit before you walk into it.
Absolutely. That's awesome stuff. All right, Ray, you got one?
I do, actually. I want to circle all the way back around. You asked Steve about his earliest experience and how he first experienced his abilities. What was yours?
Ah,
I don't know that there ever was one specific. I remember my mother telling me that when I was 2, I had a little white dog named Tammy. I remember Tammy. And we were having a little picnic up beside our house, and Tammy ran out in the road and got run over. And my mother immediately got me into the house. And it was back in the day when you didn't go to a vet to save your animal if it was desperately injured. And so my father went outside and eased Tammy's pain. And when he came back in, he was just a devastated mess, sobbing. He'd had to kill Tammy. And my mother was insane. And she said, you know, how are we going to handle this? And Dad said, no, Tammy's had to go away. Or Mom, one of them said, Tammy's had to go away. I said, no, she's not. She's right there. So I could see Tammy bouncing around outside the door. I think at that point they started repressing it. They started squeezing it back
Tammy?
in.
He's dead.
It's
She's
like,
dead.
Tammy's
Yeah.
dead. This is too weird. So at that point, I think they started squishing it back in. But my whole life, adult and child, it's like I would go to school and I would know things, and I just thought I was really smart. I just thought that I saw the bigger picture, that if this happened, then that would happen, then that would happen, and you get this ending. And so I just thought I could see the bigger picture. And when I grew up and I went to work for one particular boss, I worked for him for 21 years. And I could always know what was going to happen. And I just thought it was because I was really good at putting the puzzle together and seeing the whole puzzle. It didn't dawn on me that all the time I couldn't learn if I wasn't doodling. I couldn't know anything at work if I wasn't doodling. And so what I was doing, that's what I would do to get the information I was getting. Finally, I learned that I really was hearing, and I was seeing things that I thought other people saw that they didn't. And finally, I gave myself permission to be the authentic me. And that was later in life, you know, after you do all the things you have to do. But the doodling was my key to listening. And so I'm clairaudient more, well, I'm claircognizant, but I'm more clairaudient than anything. And so it finally dawned on me, those are not your thoughts. You're hearing the answers. So that my experience was slowly over time. And then when I left that job and got bored in other jobs, I realized what was really going on with me and started using it. But it was really the Om Sweet Om and those practices and being around like-minded people that opened up enough to know what was really going on with me. So I just thought I was really good at stuff.
So I got a question for Mr. Big Jim McChesney. So you're one of the only people that I've let actually take my aura photograph. You and Mama Cat were the only two people that I've ever let take my picture. But what got you into doing aura photography? You know, what was the thing that started that?
Well, Kat decided she wanted to get out of it. And thank goodness she offered it to me, to us. And one thing led to another. But I'll tell you what, I had more fun doing that than you can imagine. And learned a lot too. And of course, you know, with aura photography, it's whatever mood you're in most cases, or you know what kind of day you've had, what's going on in your life. But there are individuals that I had a lady one time. This is just an interesting example. Her aura was pink and blue and white, which indicates that she's very, very advanced. Okay, at least at that particular time. And she was a children's physician at UK. She worked in the hospital, and it was just amazing when I found that out. But she was just, we keep talking about love and sharing the light, but that's what she was, and it came out in her picture. Most people, however, I had one lady that was always red, which is the root chakra, and she wanted to work on that. And she kept coming and taking pictures, and finally got a little orange. So, it's as much as anything, it's fun. And then, of course, we talk about it.
You enjoyed too seeing images in people's art pictures. Remember, there was a bird,
Yeah,
there were
we had
birds, there were entities, the things in the art field he really enjoyed seeing.
We had a little girl that had her picture taken, and she was 12 or so, and there was a huge hand that was in the picture, guiding her. I mean, it was huge. I mean, you have this little girl, but they had this huge hand
Holding her.
And another lady had a crow sitting on her shoulder. And we didn't realize that till after we took her picture and then took a picture of the picture. And then the picture of the picture, you could see the crow, which is really neat. So, every once in a while, something like that would come out.
And it also allowed him to use his own intuition.
You remember your colors?
Primarily.
Were you asking mine?
Yeah.
Usually.
Well,
Oh.
of course, it changes, and again, what's going on.
With what I usually show with is my heart chakra is usually like obvious. So it'll actually show as like an Iron Man arc reactor in my chest. So bright green. And then the rest of me is so orange you can't see me in the picture.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, some of your orange goes to gold, though.
Yeah.
Spreads out to gold, ultimately.
That's what people normally see. The one time that I let Jim, because that's what Mama Cat got. The one time I asked Jim, because I was bored at the market, is when we were over on Whipple Court, and I came up and I was like, "Yeah, I'll take an aura photograph. You mind if I do that?" And Jim's getting me set up, and I asked if I should leave all my stuff on. My bracelets, my necklaces, the quote unquote bra we were talking about earlier. And Jim's like, "Nah, take it off." I still have that photograph, but my aura didn't show around me. It showed above me.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
And, there was black, pink, white, silver, and gold.
Cool. Good colors.
But it was banded. I still have the picture. It's in the old go bag. One of my favorite keepsakes from the market, actually.
Well, in looking at you today, I can't see your colors, but your aura above your head is immense today. But you're holding it tied in on your body, and I'm sure that's the experiences you've been having this week. But above your head, you're huge. Yeah.
We're looking at the top of I guess that's the ceiling. All
So-
three of you.
Yeah. But you're holding the rest.
You got wolves above your head.
A red one and a blue one. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. The tapestry behind you, Terry.
Yeah. The canine in him.
This is what's really cool is Jim is actually the one who got me on my path to begin with.
Well, that's
Because I went and had him do a picture of me, and it popped out. It was like almost all purple with a little bit of pink and stuff. And he looked at it and he's like, "You're supposed to be a healer."
cool.
And
See,
What
you
am I
never
doing?
know what influence you have on people with your words.
Yeah, that's true.
People always ask me, what is my purpose for being here? They'll ask me that in, readings or something. And they that I talk to never will tell you, because people get all wrapped up in ego. Well, that doesn't sound like a very important purpose. Or, oh, wow, I'm important. I've got a big purpose. So that's why they don't tell people what the purpose is. But they certainly find ways to help us do it in our words and our actions. And you never know that you're carrying out your purpose when you say certain words or do certain things. You never know that you're actually doing your job. So that's pretty cool
Very cool.
that it helped you.
I've actually got a similar story with you, Bev. You did a gallery read here, and I asked you a question, and I don't even remember what I asked you, if I'm being honest. But
The first question was, I have 3 options of where to move.
yep,
And then you gave the options and she told you where you were going to be. And then the second one was something to the effect of why will I need to be there, or something like that. I'm trying to remember how you actually worded that.
it was, and I don't remember if it was that question or the last one, but you looked at me and you said, well, what do you do? I still suck at answering that question, by the way. I'm still real bad at that. But I answered back with something like, I'm a healer. And you were like, well, honey, you're a conduit for healing. And it's really important to remember that. And it stuck with me because you're right, and on occasion, I think we all kind of need that ego check. Like, yeah, by the way, no, hold on, chill.
You have
But it's
to.
really helped me.
Yeah, people have to remember that if there is such a thing as a Satan or a demon, it's our ego. If there is something that can do harm to us, it's our ego. If you think back to every problem in the world, every single problem in the world, it boils down to ego or greed. So the ego, as much as I was trying to explain to my grandson one day the difference between ego and pride. Pride is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it slides into ego, then you've destroyed the good thing. Or can, not necessarily do. But it's, Jim and I we were some of the first people in the state to become Reiki masters. And we did it at the time when you waited a year before you did part 2, and you waited a year before you did part 3, level 3. And the biggest lesson in all of that was that you are not doing anything.
Nope.
You are the conduit for the healing, the conduit for the source energy. You're using God light, source, universal, whatever you want to call it. I call it God goo. You're using that. Or they're using it and you're allowing them to. They're using you and you're allowing them to. You're just calling in the light and using it. And it's just important because I've seen a lot of good healers wonder why it didn't work anymore. And it's because of the ego getting in the way.
Facilitate change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the person being healed's got to, I don't know.
And
some
they have to
level,
want it.
They have to want it
On
also.
some level.
Yeah.
I mean, there are
But you
some
don't know.
people, some people on a soul level are not ready to be healed. And that can mess with a lot of healers too. Why couldn't I do it? Why couldn't I help them? Why didn't it work? Well, it's because on some level they weren't ready to accept it. So it's all kinds of little tricks and turns and twists.
Yeah. That conversation has made a really big impact, though. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it helped. I only say what I hear, and I don't remember those conversations later. I read people and I don't even remember who I read. I had to make that deal with the universe because I didn't want to carry around everybody's stuff. I didn't think I could do what I do if I had to deal with. I had a friend who was the best psychic I've ever met, ever. She was amazing. But she was crazy because she constantly was in the zone and couldn't get out of it. We could sit down at a table in a restaurant. She knew the whole history of the couple that had sat there before us, the fight they'd had, the plans, she could not turn it off. And so when I kind of got the message that I was supposed to do it, it's like, only if I don't have to carry it with me. So at the end of everything, I'll say, I hope it was helpful. And that's my code to the universe to turn it off. So,
I mean, we do something similar. You know, I hope I was of service to you. It is mine.
yeah, same type of thing.
Yeah, usually if I'm gone somewhere and I'm here with that person and I'm doing what, you know, everybody in the group calls preacher mode, you know, if I go into that particular space where I'm giving the granddad wisdom, I'm not here. So I'm glad I could be of service to you. Hopefully I was.
Yep.
You know,
That's when you shut it down. Let it go. Because I think anyone who does healing or reading or aura reading or whatever, you cannot carry it all around with you.
I did for years, and look at me, I'm bald.
Must have really done it.
But yeah, that's a lesson that Steve's been trying to help me with, because with my healing, I have a bad habit of keeping the energy in me that I'm taking out. So
That'll
I
make
have,
you sick.
That will
Yeah.
make you sick. Ground it, work, get it out of there and ground it out.
yeah. So I'm learning how to like just filter it out as I'm working with the people.
Just see yourself as the conduit, and after it goes through you, it goes out.
Yeah.
Let Mama take it, Mama Earth.
So yeah, that's what I'm learning right now through these guys.
Cool.
Well, you have great teachers.
Yeah.
I only let 3 people work on me energetically. One is Steve, one is Jim, and one is Mark James. Nobody else gets to work on me. And it's because I know that they honor the work, and I know they're not going to keep it, and I know they're doing it with loving intent. And I drive them crazy. Both Steve and Mark, I drive them crazy because Mark will want to work on me, and I'll be like, no, I'm getting ready to do a gallery. Don't touch me. Or Steve will be like, can I get rid of this? And I'm like, don't touch me.
Get away from me. Oh, okay. You got a thing going.
I remember that time that you and Brian, Steve came up and were going to work on me. And I'm like, don't touch me. I don't want to be, I'm busy. I'm doing something. It's there now. And after that, you were always great to come up and say, you got something hanging on aisle 3. Do you mind if I pull it off? It's like, no, please do.
Well, you know, you learn the boundary quick when you're like, don't touch me. He's like, yes, ma'am. Look at my hands. They're up here. They're up here.
Well, what people don't understand is sometimes I've got my energy, my vibration a certain way for a reason.
Of course.
So, just like you do. But after that, Steve was like, you got something. Would you mind if I just, I'm like, oh, please do get that thing off there.
Get those cooties off of me.
Get those cooties
There
gone.
appears to be a spill on aisle 5. Can I clean that up real fast?
Yeah. I will tell people I've got a spill on aisle 3. Could you help me out?
just walk up. You know that. No, I try to be respectful. You know, boundaries are there for a reason.
Oh, you're great.
The comfort zone needs to be tested, but a boundary never should be. And when someone tells me no, it's a hard stop. So, okay. You know, and then after that, it was, all right, she feels a specific way. That means that she doesn't want to be touched, but I do probably need to ask her about this.
Do probably need to see if I could scrape that slime off her back. Yeah. That somebody threw at her earlier.
That was kind of the thing, like half the time.
You can't do a show and walk through it without getting some stuff thrown at you, trust me.
Believe me, I understand. Any other questions from us, or any other questions in the audience, or any other questions from y'all?
It doesn't look like we have any questions in the comment section, and I know that we're getting a little close to an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm doing the last minute question thing.
You have any?
No,
Well, guys, it's been fun.
it has.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
It's a
been
terrible
Thank you.
seat I'm sitting on.
Yeah, we're sitting on a bench. It's getting really hard.
Oh no! Yeah.
We're sitting on our dining room table bench.
So throw out the promo for next month again real quick so everybody hears it.
Yes.
Bowling Green, Kentucky, at the National Corvette Museum, which is an amazing place. I'm in love with that place. Full Moon Sisters Bazaar. We had it in Lexington last year in May. This year it's in Bowling Green, September 28th and 9th. We hope people will take the drive and come on down. I'm surprised you didn't say, why did you move to Bowling Green? I'm surprised that wasn't one of the questions tonight. But we did because we're supposed to be down here working. I was told that we had done our work in Lexington. We both understood that, and that we were leaving it in great hands, and we were to come here and do work now.
Thanks, Steve.
No pressure.
No pressure.
None at all.
There's also another event called Light It Up Fest, which is going to be interesting. That's not until March next year in E-Town, but watch for things on that. That's something they have told me has to happen. So Light It Up you're going to start seeing some stuff about that. Has nothing to do with smoking weed, even though it's supposed to be legal in December. But
I'll still share it out.
so that's something else that's coming down the pike. But they are putting us to work, and they're putting you guys to work, and they're putting all of us to work. And just get ready, put on your boots, and get ready.
Well, you know the way it's always been. Tell us where you need me, and I'll make sure that me and the team are there to support. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it always will be. Y'all have been there for us, so we're going to be there for you.
Well, Jim is down here doing lots of good dragon work, helping the weather out too. So that's a new thing, a fun thing.
I dig it.
He is.
I dig that.
You're at the Dragons too, I know.
Yes, sir.
Jim uses them for healing, protection, information. And in a gallery recently, someone asked, "Are dragons real?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Absolutely. They're just at a different vibration, so you can't, see them." But
actually, one of the coolest things, where the veil has been so thin the last few years, they aren't exactly as incorporeal.
exactly.
Right. I'm starting to see them large.
A lot
energies.
more physical, yeah. And about a few weeks ago, I posted pictures over Bowling Green of dragons in the clouds, and they're a lot more important than the way they look.
There was a fledgling Davis and his wife Susan. They were going down visiting family. This was a few years back. They were going down and visiting family, coming back from somewhere doing something, and we're coming around the bend of a how Kentucky is. So we've got the cliff face, we've got the road, and then we've got a huge drop off over here. And they were coming around the bend, and right when they hit the straightaway, there was something that came down in front of them and hit the ground, hit the pavement, and then rolled over the guardrail and took out like a whole bunch of trees.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was a winged scaled creature.
Yep.
So, I mean, they actually, they're not as out there as people think.
Well, it's like she said, the veil's thinning. So,
All kinds of things are getting ready to happen. Just get ready.
I'm down for it. I'm an alchemist, so
Let's
bring
go.
on the questions so that I can dig into an answer.
Well, thank you all.
yeah, thank you guys. It's good to talk with everybody.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank
For
you.
sure.
And we'll talk again sometime.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys very much.
And so, do you want to close it out, Steve?
Sure. Woo! All right, we get to leave. Again, we'll be having tarot night next week. If you guys are interested, it is 100% free to get a reading. Stars, just a donation, a quote unquote tip, gratuity, whatever you want to call it. Get you bumped to the top of the list, and you get your choice of one or all the readers in the room doing tandem. But all donations, of course, go back into the team, what it is that we do, how it is we help people, getting us to events, different things like that. So it's a big help to us, but you don't have to pay to get a reading. They're 100% free.
Cool.
So come on over, do things, hang out. We act like idiots and flip cards for a couple hours. That's next Thursday, and there is a possibility of a special guest reader. Making sure that we don't kind of burst the bubble on that one a little too soon. But as soon as we know for certain, we're going to start promoting our guest reader. So stay tuned for that. That should do it for August. And then we'll be looking into September, doing some stuff. You might see us in Bowling Green.
I'd love to see you in Bowling Green.
So we may wind up in Bowling Green. So we'll see what's going on, and we'll get with Jim and Bev. As soon as we know what we're doing, we'll let you know what we're doing. But till next Thursday, and as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember that those that have the power to change themselves have the power to change the world around themselves. Love you guys.
Kirby, love you guys. Thank you.
You know.